Oh wow, it's beautiful out here. Let's check on this chicken. Smells good. Woo, looks good. Hey, what's going on? I didn't know you were listening over there. How's it going? Welcome to Gordon Speaks. We're just a variety show that talks about various topics, man, ranging from music to horror movies, to cultivation, to travel, to quantum physics. I have various guests and all sorts of different segments that are guaranteed to ignite your auditory and imaginative senses. If you like to laugh, if you like to smile, if you dig some variety in your life, come on over to Gordon Speaks. Check us out. We'll be here on the dock. Peace.
Coming to you from the Paranormal Warehouse, Destination Mystery paints the story for paranormal content, abnormal adventures, and the fun behind the investigations. Each week, Mike and Melissa will bring a new adventure that includes going to some of the most remote places in the West. They will tell the story behind the investigation and share with you the evidence they discover. This is not your regular paranormal show. These episodes will bring new content from locations that no one would think to investigate or explore. We will not only tell the spooky story, we will go to the location where the spooky story originated. Fasten your seatbelts as we take you on an adventure that will make you question what's normal and what's paranormal.
America, land of the free. Our liberty is something we all hold dear. Unfortunately, there are those who have sought to take it away. Time and time again, they have been met by an immovable force. One that is resolute. One that never
Something killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
Okay.
Damn it, I'm really confused. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence, and he was dead when she hit the ground. I didn't see any cars. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Zia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Somebody along the line said that the universe is not only stranger than you think, it's stranger than you can think.
If you're green, you grow. If you're ripe, you rot. So I like to stay green until I'm not here anymore. Just keep learning, because that's what it's all about.
Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to Bigfoot and the Citizen Scientist podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and I want to thank you for being here. If you've had an encounter or story you would like to share on the show, shoot me an email at sciencemeetsbigfoot@gmail.com, or you can call the voicemail line at 641-715-3900, extension 448-449. That's 641-715-3900. 448-449 for the extension. I can also be contacted on almost all social media platforms. Either way works, just get at me. Before we go any further today, I would like to touch on the very beginning of this episode. I get so wrapped up in my own life that I often forget how good I have it. And I have it as good as I do because of our veterans. People who have sacrificed family, home, and regular everyday life. I feel it very important to remember and honor our veterans of past, present, and future. I have a lot of respect for someone who is willing to sacrifice all of the aforementioned to protect this country and her occupants. So I wanted to say thank you for your service, AJ, in both the military as well as law enforcement. You have Bigfoot and the Citizen Scientist podcast full support behind you. Okay, so to get into it, in today's episode, I was fortunate enough to get a chance to interview North Carolina's Bigfoot 911 research group member, AJ Crawley, who has had some pretty unexplainable and harrowing experiences. He's had a boulder thrown towards him, saw a shadowy bipedal figure in the dark of the forest, and so much more. If you're interested in watching this interview, you can go to YouTube, to the Bigfoot and the Citizen Scientist YouTube page, hitting that subscription button, and find the interview in its uncut and raw entirety. So buckle up and get ready for a ride into AJ's Sasquatch history and experiences.
Eight or 9 feet tall, just like in the movies. Boom, boom, walking sideways to me.
Oh my God.
North Carolina is Bigfoot territory.
No, Ziggy, no.
At least that's what you'll hear from avowed hunters of the elusive, some say fictional, creature.
This thing was 10 foot tall.
A national Bigfoot research group that tracks sightings shows pings all across the Tar Heel state. There have been several reports just in the past couple years.
He was like a basketball player mixed with a wrestler, football type size.
Most of them debunked, forgotten, or both.
Night vision scope, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cameras with LEDs, infrared illuminator.
But now a group out of McDowell County that's been tracking the creature for more than a decade claims they finally have proof Bigfoot is here. They've been going on hunts, narrowing down their search. They posted these photos on Facebook. Footprints, they say, gash marks in trees, audio clips of Bigfoot howling, and yes, even photos of what they claim is Bigfoot himself, right here in the North Carolina backwoods. They're so confident they're on the creature's heels, they've now created a hotline for tips. And while no one has ever been able to prove that Bigfoot exists, this group swears they'll be the first.
So if you see something unusual in the woods, if you hear something go bump in the night, Bigfoot 911 wants to hear from you. We've linked up to their information on our website. Reporting for NBC Charlotte, I'm Savannah Levins.
Today we have this fellow named AJ on the line today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his experiences. So welcome, AJ.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and start by letting the audience know a little bit about yourself, your background. If you don't want to, you don't have to get too specific about anything in any of this conversation. But so it's all up to you. But let's just start there and work our way up.
All right. Very well. So I'm from Western North Carolina, which is, some people say there in Northwest Georgia is kind of a hot spot right now for these things. And so I'm here in Western North Carolina. A former law enforcement officer. I worked in the prison system also, probation and parole. And now switch gears and work in the hospitality industry, which is great. I've been a high school football coach. Now I've been lucky and I've wore a lot of hats. So done a lot of things.
Very nice.
Thank you. But as far as what I've been through here, I'll start from the early days, from when I was a kid. I guess that was my first introduction to Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Well, here in North Carolina, I've learned that we call them wood boogers or boogers. And I guess when I first heard of these, it happened at about the same time as the Patterson Gimlin film hit on In Search Of, the old show with Leonard Nimoy.
Yep.
And I was maybe 7 or 8 years old when that came out. But here at the exact same time, I have family that lives in these South Mountains of Western North Carolina, around the Shelby, Kaiser area like that. And you can look it up on the internet. There was a thing around here called the Knobby. And you can Google it and find all about it here in West North Carolina. And it was around Carpenter's Knob, some little area there in northwest Cleveland County. And it got its name Knobby from Carpenter's Knob, because that's where it was seen a lot. And nobody knew what it was, but I had family in that area. And the family had several sightings. And as a kid, I was really just a kid listening to the adult conversation. We would go to the rivers and have our 4th of July gatherings and our family gatherings at the old river home place, and I would listen to the I guess you'd call them elders or people in our family. Well, that thing come visit my house last night, screamed all night, wouldn't shut up, and fired a few shots, something like that. But I can remember a few things from their stories of, like I said, just listening on their conversation as a kid, which, I wasn't really part of the conversation, just listening in on it, like I said. And I remember one thing that happened was I had an older cousin, probably more like a second cousin to me, but he was a cousin. And I was spending the night that weekend. I guess, I was young. My parents wanted to go out like most parents do. And I guess I was the middle of 3 siblings. So my aunt and uncle said, well, I come stay with them. They're great people. And my second cousin, he was home from the Army, and he was actually stationed in Tacoma, Washington at Fort Lewis. So he was home on leave, and he wanted to go deer hunting. That's just what people in the mountains do. They go deer hunting and stuff like that. And so I got up that Saturday morning. He had left earlier than that to go deer hunting, and I'm in the floor watching cartoons like any kid does on a Saturday morning. Back when we had Saturday morning cartoons, the Looney Tunes and all that. So, and the next thing I know, my cousin just came busting in the door and collapsed in the floor. And of course, there was a big commotion. My uncle, he jumped up out of his chair, what in the world's wrong with you, boy? And my aunt come running in, or great aunt, I guess you'd call her. And he was in the floor just as white as could be. And I was just sitting on the floor looking at him like, what in the world's going on here? This is a strange family, That's probably one of the second times I ever spent the night with them. Babysitted, I guess you could say. And so he starts telling him about the Knobby. He was in his deer stand hunting on the edge of a field, and he saw this thing walking toward him on 2 legs. And but it was across the field and walking his direction. And he said it's a pretty big field, and I know the field he's talking about. And it's about a mile away from their home, and they live in the creek bottoms in a sort of a valley between the mountains near South Mountain State Park, which South Mountain State Park kind of runs into the Carpenter's Knob area, and where I told you this Knobby thing had been seen a lot. So he watched it through his rifle scope, and it was still walking in his direction, getting closer and closer. And he just watched it, trying to figure out what he was looking at. And pretty soon he said he started to get a little rattled, because it was just taking his time, just moseying across the field and looking around. And he didn't know if it saw him or not, but it just kept walking in his direction. So he got down out of the tree stand thinking he's gonna have to make a run for it if it got much closer. So just so happens that it just kept walking toward him. So he gets down out of the tree stand, stands at the bottom of the tree, keeps looking at it through the scope, and finally you don't need the scope anymore. It's close enough. So he fired a shot at its feet to stop it. And like I said, I don't know if it saw him between then and there. This was probably back in the late 70s. And a lot of time has passed between now and then. And I've been meaning to get with him and talk to him about this, but time and circumstances haven't presented itself. But he took off running back toward home and had about a mile to go. And he came to a cattle gate that he had to cross. And he had a decision to make. Do I put down my gun and climb the gate? What do I do here? So he looks back and the thing is still coming toward him. And so he just takes a couple steps back and dives over the cattle gate with gun and all. And I thought, wow, okay. So he takes off running again on the other side. He gets to his feet and runs the rest of the way to the home. But now, shortly after the gate, he looked back and said this thing just stepped over it. It didn't take a jump. It didn't do anything, kind of like it just stepped over it and kept walking. So he ran all the way back home, and that was when he collapsed in the house and the door. And so him and my uncle got up and got his outdoor attire on, boots and everything, and they went back to where he was at. And then that was the last that I know of that encounter. Never heard much about it after that from him. And then there was the next encounter was a cousin. And she lived on the same property, which was about 90 acres, and it's all family that lived on that property. And I believe her parents had a mobile home, and she was the same age as I was. So we had one of our 4th of July get-togethers at the river, which is just across the street from where all these people lived on the 90 acres. And of course, I'm listening to the conversation again, eating watermelon. That's what we do on the 4th of July, and swim. And somebody had asked where the little girl was, and she was in the hospital. And one of us said, well, why is she in the hospital? Is she okay? Yeah, she was just in a little shock. She went out her front door, was playing in the yard, running around, and ran right into this knobby thing. I mean, she literally made contact with it from the story the elders were telling each other. And she looked up at it, and it looked at her. They both screamed and ran in different directions. And she had to go they took her to the hospital because she was just in shock. And I guess she's recovering. And like I said, now this was back in the early 80s, maybe late into the 70s when that happened. And then I never really heard anything about that again from them. And then the other story I heard was it snowed one time here in Western North Carolina. And the same family that I spent the night with, my uncle, he was a heavy equipment mechanic for a company. And he would keep the dozers and stuff running on the job sites when they broke down, and change the fluids, and just a machinery person. So he would get up every morning early and go to work. He kept his boots outside the back door. He wore to work every day, not to track them through the house. And he got up and went outside on the snow, and to get his boots off they had a little square concrete pad poured outside the sliding glass door. No roof over it or anything. So he went out there to get his boots and put them on. And he noticed these gigantic bare feet print in the snow right up to his door, through the yard, right up to the sliding glass door, and then back again, back to the woods, back across the river. And so he got his boots on, didn't tell nobody, got a shovel out and messed up all the footprints so nobody would see them as his family, because he didn't want them to be scared, that it walked right up to the door. And he followed the footprints for a mile or so till they went into he said it was a cave on the inside of the creek bank. And he said he wasn't brave enough to go any further than that. So he just walked back home, got in his truck, and went to work. Now, there's been a couple instances of the same family on the same property I've been talking about has had it looking in their windows at night where they're watching TV. They hear it screaming and stuff like that. And like I said, this was back in the late 70s and early 80s. After about the mid 80s, we never heard from this again. Or I never heard anything else about it. And I was in high school, junior and senior, and graduated and never really thought much else about it. Then a story came out in the local paper in this area where they found a bear that was badly burnt from a forest fire that we had in the mid 80s. And of course, that's what they contributed to what they think the knobby was. Okay. Now the fire broke out in 84, 85 time frame or so, but yet they were having these encounters in the late 70s and not in the late 70s, but in the 70s, all through the decade. So we kind of knew that's not what it was. You know, everybody in that area said, no, that's not what it was. It's the time frame don't match up as far as the forest fire that happened. It's a pretty big forest fire. So didn't think anything else about it. Around 1990, I joined the Navy and went to boot camp in San Diego and met a really, really good friend from Bothell, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle. And of course, I teased him from being from the land of Bigfoot and Yeti all through boot camp, had big laughs about that, you know, and teased him a little, but we were really good friends. And come toward the end of boot camp, everybody's getting their orders in the Navy, wherever they're going after boot camp. And lo and behold, my orders came in to Bremerton, Washington. So I'm going to see he got his payback. He gets to tease me now. That's where I'm going. So we got to be really good friends, and we would share holidays because he would come home on leave from the Navy on holidays, and his parents and I would meet me at the ferry terminal, and I'd hang out with him. We developed a real good friendship. And living in Washington State was an eye-opener to this subject, because in Washington State, it's common talk. You know, people are, I can't say all of them, but mostly everyone you met knew these things existed. And while I was in Washington State, there were several of them cited, you know, and seen, and reports in the papers and everything. And one of the local guys also said that, you know, they have laws on the books about killing one of these things, that you're not supposed to do it. It's against the law. So I thought, well, why would you have a law for something that don't exist? Makes no sense to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've heard the 911 call. The
Yes.
gentleman that was in his yard, and it was looking back at him while he's on the phone with 911. I believe that was in 1995.
Mm-hmm. It was.
And that was Kitsap County, Washington, which is exactly where I was stationed at, in Kitsap County. So I was there when that happened. I was up there in that area. I was there when Paul Freeman shot his famous video.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, and this is all over the news up there. It's in every paper and this and that, you know. So it's really commonplace for that in Washington State. It's not a fact of if for most people. It's when are we going to catch one of these things, or when are we going to find one?
Mm-hmm.
So living in Washington State for those 6 years really opened my eyes to the Pacific Northwest. And there's a nuclear submarine base up there that was part of the attachment that I was assigned to in the Navy. And there was actually reported sightings on base by security personnel of these things being on base, being seen on base. And if you think about the gravity of that, these are official Navy documents. And on this base, they actually have nuclear missiles, ICBMs, for these submarines. So security is tight around that base. I mean, not only on base do you have to have, you know, your military ID or your civilian contractor ID to get on and off base. On base, there are checkpoints that even if you have that ID, if you don't have the clearance, you don't go through that gate to that area. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's even places on this base, there's roads near where they store the weapons. They're underground in bunkers. You can go through there, but you don't stop. You do not stop. There are forces hiding in the woods, secret little areas of observation. One story I heard once was the commandant of the Marine Corps was out jogging, and he was visiting the base, checking on security, you know, doing whatever those big wheels do, you know, in the military. Well, he jogged through that area, and of course they stopped him and put him on his face because he didn't have an ID card, and they took him into custody because he didn't physically have it on him. So security's tight, and you got to wonder, well, how these things get on base and nobody knows it, or do they know it and just don't say nothing, you know? And then I spent a lot of time on Vancouver Island, which they call that Ape Island. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. And I've been to some places of that island that are just insanely weird feeling, you know. And I believe that's where the Osterman story happened. I think where the trapper went over to the island by canoe or boat, got kidnapped in a sleeping bag and was carried through the woods. I think that happened on Vancouver Island, and I've looked at it on the map, determined that's where it happened. So I started perking up a little more. I've done a lot of camping in Washington State. But only one thing I could ever say that happened that was weird was while we were sleeping in the tent one night, something was going through all of our stuff. Now you could say that could have been a raccoon, or it could have been any number of animals, bears or whatever. But the funny thing about it was, none of us were armed because we were in the military. You're not really allowed to have firearms while you're in the military unless they're issued to you. So you don't have them. But something was rifling through our stuff, but it was being thrown about. And you can tell it was rifling through something, and then it would kind of toss it, and it would hit the ground over here. And I'm thinking, well, an animal don't really do that. This is what I'm thinking to myself while I'm in the tent. But I didn't have the nerve to look out and see what it was, because it was just pitch black. And I just laid there and listened. It went away, and I went to sleep. So that's the only strange thing that I could actually say that ever happened while I was in Washington State. So after my time in Washington State, I came back home here, got out of the Navy, come back here to Western North Carolina. And Bigfoot and Sasquatch was not on my radar, even though I still believed in it because of my family that lived on that 90-acre plot at the foot of the mountains. They were really good people, real Christian people. And they're not going to lie, to family, to other adults, they're just not going to do that. They're just good mountain people, and so that was always my pillar, they wouldn't lie. So there's got to be something out there that we don't know of. And in 2014, it was March, my wife and I decided we were going to buy an RV. So we bought an RV from a buddy of mine that wanted to sell his fifth wheel. And we bought it, and I thought, gosh, I just don't really want to pull anything anywhere anymore, tote RVs around. It's just a pain. So let's find us a campground and put it on, set it up permanently, and we'll go to it. So that's what we done. We found a little campground, and it was around the beginning of March. We had the RV pulled in. I ordered one of those metal carports and had it put over the entire thing, which was, I think it had to be 24 by 30 carport. It was pretty big. And I thought, well, this is great. I won't get rained on, but now I got to stand on the dirt. So luckily there was some campers that were not going to renew their lease at the campground, and they had a porch. And they had told my wife, well, if you come clean out our camper, you can have what you want, and we'll give you that porch. Fair enough. So we done that. The day came. Can I put you on hold a second? Go ahead. Hey, I'm on a phone call right now with the insurance. Can you hold on? All right. So we bought the RV. We got the deal worked out with the people across the campground for their deck. So the day came, and I got a buddy of mine to help me. Luckily, the deck was 30 foot long, which is exactly what the carport was. And it was built in 3 sections, 10 foot each section. So I thought, well, this will be easy. I'll back my trailer up over there. He'll help me load each section up, and we'll take a section at a time and set it up. So we did that. And he had a daughter, and she was mad because we're in the mountains and there's no internet, no cell service, no nothing. You know how teenagers are. They got to have that phone. So come about 5 o'clock. Now, I'm not familiar where you're from, but in March at 5 p.m., it's pitch black here. Sun's already gone. So his daughter wanted to go home. So he left, and I was leaning against a neighbor's camper where you can get enough cell phone signal to make a phone call. And I was looking back at the deck thinking, I got to work on this some more. It don't look right. So I went to work on it. He left. The campground stays locked because it was out of season. And the only way in and out is through the gate, which stays locked. So I had to go let him out and then lock the gate back behind me. And I knew I was alone in the campground. And the campground is way back in the woods, bordering the Pisgah National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I knew I was alone. There was nobody else in there. And there's a few scattered houses around us, very few, with tree farms. They all have tree farms around us. So there's a lot of wilderness. And then the other side is Pisgah National Forest, where there's no houses. Our spot of the campground was the last spot at the campground before it went off the property. And there is a stream, not quite a river, but probably a stream about calf deep, maybe 20, 25 yards wide. And that is directly behind our camper by 15 feet or so. So that's just giving you an idea of what the layout looks like. Directly behind our camper, you have the 25-foot wide stream. And then there's a cliff that goes almost vertical that is about, is that your phone or me? I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't think that's me.
Okay, it's probably something on here. I thought I had everything blocked. But
it's all right.
I'm sure you can edit that out.
I honestly didn't even hear anything, so.
Okay, I'll just keep going. So, about just on the other side of the stream, I mean, there's not even a foot, and the cliff starts probably 50 to 70 feet high or so. No, I take that back. Maybe about 40 to 50 feet high. But regardless, it's pretty vertical. So you're not going to climb it. I've tried to go up it, and there's just no way to do it. So he leaves, and I'm there working on the deck. I'm putting more blocks up underneath it, leveling it out. Come about 10 o'clock, the only thing I have to do is put a lot of the top deck boards back on, where I had it took apart in sections. And the only light I had was the very dim 10-watt camper light above the door, which you can see right in front of you, and that's about it. But I heard something behind me come stomping up the creek, or stream, or whatever you want to call it. And I've done a lot of trout fishing around Western North Carolina. I used to trout fish a lot every day after work. We're lucky here where I live. We have an awesome trout river. And I take my dogs. I've had labs and stuff, and you see deer run from you when you're stomping up the creek or whatever fishing. So I knew what 4 legs sounded like stomping through the water. And of course, I hear me going through the water, and I know what 2 feet sound like. Now this all took about 4 or 5 seconds to rationalize. It takes longer to explain it, but I knew whatever that was stomping up behind me was on 2 legs, because it was just a big whoosh, whoosh sound. Whoosh. You can just hear the water going. And I thought, what in the world was that? And I thought about what. Like I said, it only took me a few seconds to deduct it, but I knew it wasn't a bear, because there wasn't enough feet going through the water, legs. But I knew it had big legs, because it was making a whooshing sound instead of a pitter-patter sound like deer's legs would do, or a dog's paws, So I knew it had big legs, but it wasn't a bear. So the only thing I needed to do was go in the camper, get the flashlight. I had an assault shotgun in there. Why, I don't know. Just I thought it was fun to have around the camper, just in case. You never know. So I went in the camper, grabbed it, loaded it, and grabbed a really good flashlight, LED, really bright. And I come back out and scan the river, and I could tell where the river was all mucked up, water ripples going to the banks, So I knew something had been in the water, but I didn't see nothing. So I looked around and listened and didn't hear nothing. So I set that stuff on the deck, and I went back to work, and not 30 seconds, probably not even 20 seconds of going back to work on the top of the deck, the exact same thing happened again, except closer. And I thought, Jesus, I dove over and grabbed that flashlight and spun around with the shotgun there by my side. And again, the water was rippled, disturbed, messed up, but I didn't see nothing. Now, even though this flashlight I had was a great bright flashlight, probably 400 lumens or so, it didn't quite penetrate that amount of darkness past a certain point. So I scanned the cliff over there again, you know, just looking around thinking, you know, there's you either go back the way you came or you got to come by me or you got to go up that cliff. That's the only way through here. And I'm thinking it can't be a person because it's March and that water's freezing. And plus I'm the only one in the campground, you know, so all those things are running through my mind, and I look and I must have looked and listened and investigated for about 10 minutes trying to figure out what this was. Didn't come up with anything. So I just go back, put these last couple boards on. I'm going home. I'm done for the night. So went back around to where I was working at, set everything down, grabbed the last couple boards and started putting the screws in them. And out of pure silence, a boulder slammed right in the middle of that stream. And I knew that boulder wasn't there before because when I grabbed the flashlight to look, it was right in the middle, probably a little more closer to my side of it, of the stream than the other side. And like I said, it just took me a few seconds to realize, you know, if that thing would have rolled down that cliff, I would have heard it all the way down. It would have hit everything. It was March, there are leaves everywhere, they're dry, it hadn't rained, but there was none of that. It was dead silence. So that thing slamming in the middle of the stream. And water just exploded everywhere. I could hear it hitting the ground everywhere. And their boulder was the size of about 2 basketballs.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was big. Have you ever seen one of those medicine balls they used to use back in the day? Used to toss around. That's about the size it was. It was bigger than 1 basketball, so maybe 2 basketballs, but I would say one of those medicine balls that was back in the day. And I made a mental note of that rock, because it was too cold to wait out there in the water and really look at it. But I made a mental note. It was really the only one sticking out of the water that big that didn't look like it belonged. So anyway, I grabbed the flashlight again and I'm scanning everywhere. And I look up on that cliff and there is a silhouette. I couldn't see it, make it out as far as seeing it really good, but you could just see the silhouette because there was moon behind it, light behind it. And it was just swaying. Now, I've told very few people about this encounter, but I've never told my family or people at the campground what I'd seen up on that little cliff because I didn't want to worry or say, hey, you're stupid or you're crazy or whatever. But that don't really bother me anymore. But I couldn't see anything as far as any kind of eye shine or anything. I could just see a silhouette on 2 legs bobbing back and forth and just looking back at me, you know. So we had this little, I guess we'd call it a staring contest. It could have been looking away from me because I really couldn't see a face either, just a silhouette. And then pretty soon it finished where it was going and it went on. And never heard anything like that again, or anything like that again. Later on that season, I had a job that would keep me out. I won't say what it is, but I had a job that would keep me out to like 2 o'clock in the morning on weekends. It was like a secondary job, part-time job or something. And when I would come back to the campground where my family was at the camper, the neighbor camper was always fishing in the pond, catfishing. So I'd go over and talk to him. And one night I walked over there when I walked in because I couldn't go right to sleep around and come home. I had to wind down. And he says, you know, he's like, shh, listen. I said, okay. So I'm listening and we could hear something screaming way off up in the valley toward the mountains. And we do have that recorded. And I'll have to find that recording to see where it's at, because I've been through a couple phones since then, since 2014. But we had heard it on numerous occasions when I come in late at night and he's over there fishing, and we started recording what we had heard. And the best way I can describe it now, like I said, this campground was way back in the hollow in a valley. But when I describe it to people, I tell them, if you ever heard a semi truck from a long way away going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour and the tires are whining, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But it wasn't no truck, because there just wasn't any around there like that going that fast. But that's what it sounded like. And it would start kind of low, get real loud, and then drop back off again. It would just do it over and over and over. So we had that happen that same year on many nights. And then one night I came in and we heard one over, say, for example, north, and then one south of us doing the exact same thing back and forth. And I think they were telling us, hey, those guys are up in the campground fishing in the pond. Don't go down there. Who knows what they're doing when they're communicating back and forth. So, and then later on that same year during the camping season, up near let me drop back to the other part. Actually, those guys like to fish in the pond late at night after all the other campers are on their porches or in their beds or whatever. It's probably about 10, 12, 11, 12 o'clock at night. There's a knock on my camper door from one of the other campers. And he's like, hey man, grab your shotgun. Come on, we got a bear in the campground. I'm like, a bear, really? Yeah, come on. We got to go find this thing and run it off because there's kids and stuff there. So, and I'm like, well, hey, no, it was a bear. And they're like, well, we saw it down the straightaway. It was right underneath the street light at one of the campgrounds. I'm like, okay, you saw it. So we looked around, and the campground is completely surrounded by a fence except for the river area where it comes and goes off the property. There's no fence through there. So it would have to go either over the fence or out the main entrance, or the only entrance really, or through the stream to get out. We rode all over that campground, looked under everybody's camper, around everybody, and never saw anything. And it was like it just disappeared. The bear disappeared. So I never gave that much thought at all until that same year, toward the end of the camping season, we were out. Usually some people will help the management of the campground do maintenance. We'll mow, weed eat, pick up limbs, stuff like that. We were working up near one of the flower beds, and lo and behold, somebody found a big old footprint in the flower bed. It was pretty big. It sure was.
Oh.
So that made me think back about that whole bear thing.
Yeah.
How come we never saw this bear? Maybe it was maybe it was a Bigfoot on all fours, and you just thought it was a bear. We never did find a bear tracks either. So, but it was definitely something there for them to cause alarm to go looking around. And then if that same year, as a matter of fact, we were staying up there, and it was about 20 miles away from where I work, and I had my heat and air system tore out all summer long, replacing it with new. And my wife says, well, I'm not staying at this house. There's no air conditioner. Summers in the South are brutal, man. I don't know if you, I'm sure the listeners know that, but pretty brutal. So we stayed at the campground every day the entire summer of 2014. So and that was back when I smoked, and I would get up at 7 o'clock, and so would my neighbor that talked fished all night. He would get up almost at the same time, and he smoked too. And we'd holler across the road to each other. And he had already left that particular morning to go to work, and I had a little more time. So I'm on the porch, drinking a soda. I don't drink coffee, and smoking. And out of the blue, tree knock, wham, wham, wham. And I'm like, did I just hear something beating on the tree? I mean, it happened so fast and so sudden, I was questioning myself, did I hear that?
Yep.
And it's quiet, and I thought, I don't know. So now this time I'm listening. All of a sudden it did it again. Wham, wham. I'm thinking, yes, that's exactly what I heard. It was a tree knock. And so that was the same year. And also, if you look on the BFR road, the exact same year of 2014, there was several sightings around Lake James, which is not very far from where we are.
Okay.
At the local boat ramps. So all that happened, right together. So with having said all those circumstances coming together all at one time in the same area at the same time, that gave me a lot of pause. And plus what had happened to me that night at the camper, that kind of reignited that fire. Maybe there is these things out there. Maybe I should pay more attention and start looking. So I did. I went out and bought a bunch of equipment and stuff, and I hit the woods and joined a club, not really a club, but a group around here. It actually has a Bigfoot festival every year.
Okay.
And with, you want me to plug them? Give them their name?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Please do. Yeah.
It's called Bigfoot 911.
Okay.
And they have done a lot of good work in this area. And I've gone out with them a lot, and a very good man runs it. And he's very scientific, and he just loves it, and he's an older man and retired. So we go out, we've got a lot of evidence, and you could probably find that evidence on the group Facebook, on the Facebook group page of Bigfoot 911. And it's exactly the same areas that I've been talking about this whole time. So I can remember one night we were around the Lake James area, and we had put out some glow sticks along the Forest Service road, which we had to hike into. And we come to a big long straightaway in the Forest Service road, and John, the leader, says, "Hey, this would be a great place to put these glow sticks out." So we break them and we put some fishing line on them. We tie them on the side of the road all the way down that straightaway. So the plan was, hey, we can look from one end to the other and see all of these. And if there's one missing, we're going to know it.
Yeah.
Because he had a theory about glow sticks that they like to mess with them because he had them messed with before. And that's where he had his first encounter was he saw this thing plain as day, pick up one of his glow sticks and hold it and stare at it. And he could see the detail and everything in the glow of the glow stick. So that's where he got that idea. So one night we're out here, and John and I and his son were along that straightaway where everybody else was, going through the woods and doing what they do. And we noticed the glow stick was gone. So we walked down to the area that glow stick was at, and radioed to the rest of the team, "Hey, we're missing the glow stick. Anybody got a glow stick?" They took it. No, nobody mentioned. Nobody take a glow stick. So we start looking around and find the glow stick about 40 to 50 yards back in the woods, with no idea how it got off the fishing string or how it got there.
Yeah.
Everybody else was way up the Forest Service road from us. We were the last ones kind of hanging back here around the area, So it would be real weird for one of them to even come back and mess with it. It wouldn't even be a gag trip because, that's not how we do, do things. We don't prank each other. So that was pretty serious. Then I believe John, him and some friends of his went on a little, not really a solo excursion, but he had got some wind of some fishermen in the local area that had some weird activity while they were fishing around the lake on some properties. Mm-hmm. Like something was stalking them on the shoreline while they fished in the lake. So of course they reiterated that to John, and John got somebody with a pontoon boat, and him and about 4 or 5 of the team members. They went out one night, and John got a picture what we believe is a Sasquatch on a thermal that you could actually see on the Facebook page too, peeking around a tree. And I really can't think of what else it could be besides that, because it shows movement. And I believe it's in video. I think there's some stills, but there's also a video of it that you could look on that. So in the meantime, I had a lady call me once about a friend of hers that she works with in another county. He owned a farm, and he had been having a lot of activity, but he didn't really know anything of this subject. He's had some animals killed, animals gone missing, even cows tore up. And it's about a 300-acre farm, and asked me if I would be interested in just talking to him. So I said, sure, I'll talk to him. I gave her my name and my number and says, just tell him to call me at his convenience, and I'd be glad to talk to him. So he called, and he told me what all had been going on his farm from the very beginning. He's lived on that farm for a while, but the farm used to be a lot bigger, way bigger than it is now. And over the years, the family taking pieces here and pieces there and hand it down, and it's about 300 acres now. And so it's been in the family a long time. Even back during the Civil War, it was in the same family. And there was also a residence, or not, there was a cave actually, where it was said that he related to me, that's where the slaves would go hide when the people, the troops, or whoever would come around for whatever reason. I'm not really that big on that kind of info, but it was somewhere they would go hide. And when he was a kid, they would actually go to this cave where the slaves would hide, and they would find their walking sticks, their eyeglasses from way back in the 1800s. Really neat, So, and on his property, this creature had been seen several times by about everyone in the family. As far as immediate family and his brother, when they deer hunt the land, they would have an encounter. It had been going on since 2012 when his brother first saw it while deer hunting on the property. It walked by his tree stand. And so it's been going on there for a while. So I told him, shoot, I would love to come look at your property and have a look around, see what I could find, any structures, any evidence, any indication that these things might be there. I could look around and probably tell you. And from the day I walked on that property, I could tell you he's got one or a family unit living on his property, because I've found different size of footprints, documented them, photographed them, tree structures woven together to form arches. Now, not saying that these couldn't have been human done, but it's like I always told the farmer, let's call him the farmer that owns the property, that if you're trying to fool me, you're not really fooling anybody. So and I've thought about that. I said, since I've came here, I've really tried to debunk everything you've ever told me, anything I've ever found. And I told him, there's a lot of this stuff that I just can't debunk, like these gigantic footprints we found down in the creek bottoms. They're just huge. So he and I now he won't go on the property after dark. He won't go outside the house area after dark. That's out. His wife used to run the fence line. They used to have to run it 2 times a week to make sure trees hadn't fallen on it and grounded out the electric fence. He said, because the cows know when it's not on. Somehow they know, and they will challenge it. So they have to, keep up on that. And he says his wife won't do it anymore because stuff gets thrown at her, sticks, limbs, pebbles. While he's mowing, things get thrown at him while he's bush hogging, because he used to bush hog me in an area where I could go with my side-by-side, as not to run over his area where he don't have cattle. He has soybeans, so I try to stay out of those. So he bush hogs me a path where I can get to the different wood lines of his property. Mm-hmm. So we've put out game cameras a lot, and we've had 3 very interesting pictures come back, one of which there's no doubt what it is. You can look at it, and I can send it to you. There is no doubt what this picture is once you see it. Now, it's not the best of picture. It was taken February of last year, of 2019. And the camera was only out for a week, but it rained so hard that entire week, we went and got the camera early. Mm-hmm. And he was downloading the pictures and going through them. And he come across this picture. Like I said, there's no doubt. Once you see it, you know exactly what it is. And but it's not the greatest picture. And I haven't really put it out there because I can't stand for the person to say, "Oh, that's a blob squat," so, or they'll start, "Why doesn't nobody ever get a clear picture of a Bigfoot?" It's only people that's never been in the woods would say that. It's so hard. It's so hard. And I do believe in the theory that these things can see the infrared on the cameras, But why we got these 3 pictures at such a close range, I don't know. The first one looks like a snuffleupagus from Sesame Street, if you ever remember that show.
Yeah.
We don't have brown bears in Western North Carolina, as far as I know. They're not saying there couldn't be a freak one or two around,
Right.
but we always put the cameras. I'm 6'5", and I always put the cameras at my eye height whenever I put them up, just to rule out deers and cows, because he does have cows on the property. So I try to rule that out. So I put them at 6.5 feet high. And one, I couldn't tell what it is. It's just a forehead of something big. And like I said, the third picture you have to see for yourself and make your own determination what it is. And all on his property is just the insane happenings that you could ever think of. They've seen him peeking out behind trees. He's got them recorded. He's got them on video, but never to any detail. So I had a friend ask me, I would take several friends with me to his property or somebody to go with, because like I said, he won't go on the property after dark. That's out. His wife will not run the fence line anymore. She's done with it. So he's got to do all that.
Oh.
Yeah. And he also raises dogs. To me, they look like Weimaraners dogs.
Okay.
And he has them all over around the house, different corners of the house and different lots, and he was trying to plant a garden when I had first met him. But he says, every time I try to put a garden here for the last several years, it starts growing good. Something comes, rips everything out of the ground and takes it. Now we can't say that's not a homeless person. We just don't know.
Right.
And there's never been any proof besides those pictures that I can't say human hands couldn't have done it or human feet couldn't have done it, because they very well could. You give people enough time to think, they can get pretty creative.
Absolutely.
So I was on the fence for a long time about this guy's place until I got that third picture. And then I said I would take friends out with me. We've cooked bacon in the woods, but who can resist bacon? I can't,
Right.
I've tried all kinds of things on these animals. I've put game cameras out around the barn where he says a lot of things happen. He's got 4 or 5 barns on this place, but one particular barn, which is butted up to the woods, it seems like a lot of things happen. So I've put cameras on the barns, and maybe that's how I got this third picture, because I put red glow sticks all around it, and they last about 8 hours. And I was thinking maybe those red glow sticks will disguise the infrared light that trips it. I don't know. It was just a theory or an idea that I thought I would try. Mm-hmm. So I have a friend of my wife's that likes to go with me on these kind of things. And she said, well, have you ever bothered checking the BFRO in this area? And I said, no. And she said, well, let me look. She had looked no more than 5 or 10 minutes until we came across a sighting somebody reported back in 2013 right across this guy's driveway.
Whoa.
Yes. And then I thought, this guy's not fooling me. He's got something going on, because this is from 2013. He said his problem started in 2012. And here I have some other total stranger that was just driving down this road, had a sighting that was BFRO investigated. And they had a really good look at it. So
wow.
Yes. And all those are on that website, and in private I can give you all that information. I don't want to put this guy's property,
No, please don't. Yeah.
But he's a real nice family guy, and he's been very good to me and lets me use his property as I want, and as I want to go out and investigate. But I would love to talk to some of his other neighbors.
Yeah.
To see if I just hate to walk up somebody's door and knock on and, hey, have you seen any Bigfoot around here? So, I haven't done that yet.
You might be surprised at the answers you get, though.
I well could be. But then, like I said, February, we got that third picture that was just really amazing. And it is blurry, but you can, like I said, you know exactly what it is when you see it. That's about the time COVID hit, and his wife started battling cancer. So I've kind of stayed away because I just don't want to take any chances or anything happening over there. But everything is going good with the family and her treatment and everything, which is awesome. So hopefully this spring, when things, because everything on his property seems to happen, start in early spring and go till midsummer, then everything stops. So last year I didn't get to go a whole lot. Well, I didn't go any. So hopefully I've been in contact with him. We can start. And I don't like going to his property during deer season because they like to hunt the property, and I don't want to mess anything.
Yeah.
So, but he's had now on his property, like I said, he's had game cameras twisted off trees. He's had deer blinds torn down in areas, and there's one part of that property that's just super spooky, and that happens to be around that cave area that I was telling you about. That's in there. It's just super spooky. I get goosebumps every time I drive in there with the side by side or the UTV. So that's pretty much what got me into this. And
okay.
And any of you listeners are local to the area or are looking for a Bigfoot festival, that 911 Bigfoot 911 group, they've been doing a festival for the last couple of years. Now, this past year we couldn't do it because of COVID, of course. Yeah. It's a big street festival, and I was involved with the first one, and I believe the numbers were estimated at 30,000.
Wow.
For a street festival, for the first ever street festival. Then they had the second annual street festival, and then of course last year's got canceled. But I just saw a message from him where we will do a street festival again, tentatively planned for I believe the 13th, 14th, or maybe the 15th, whatever it is in September.
Okay.
When they do it. So everybody might want to look out for that in Marion, North Carolina.
Well, I'll be sure to plug this at the beginning and end of the episode then too. So
yeah, and like I said, the group is Bigfoot 911, and you go on there, request to get on their page and hear all the info and look at some of the evidence that they have was really good. And they're also another guy around here that's in the Uwharrie, which I would love to go to Uwharrie National Forest. It's in the central North Carolina, and I hear it's super hot spot right now. Of course, there's probably a lot of hot spots everywhere, the people say, but a lot of people go in Uwharrie looking, and they find what they're looking for, with footprints and screams and yells and whatever's going on. Lee Woods is a big investigator in that area. He's got a lot of casts and stuff like that. They're just undeniable of what they are. He's even got a night vision video of one. He turned around behind him one night while investigating with his camera, and it took off behind a tree and ran across the road behind some more trees. So like I said, all that is open to interpretation, but I personally know these people. They're good people, and they're not going to pull the wool over your eyes and tell you something that's not factual, and which is probably one of the biggest problems of this Bigfoot thing anyway. There's too much hoax and too much non-factual going on, so it's hard for people to get through the meat and potatoes of it, which is why, I'm sure you run across me on the Sasquatch Believers.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. And I'd asked Tony to, hey, let me get here and moderate and get rid of some of these trolls. Trolls kill these groups. What people get out of trolling, I have no idea.
Mental illness.
It's got to be. I mean, that's like, I believe Tony put it to me. It's like somebody going to church and sitting in the back row and heckling the preacher the whole time.
That's that's right on the head, man. That is exactly what it is.
Exactly. So I thought, well, that was an excellent way to put it, and you're exactly right. So myself, I work hard to screen people, and if you guys do go to the Bigfoot Believers group, please answer all three questions, because you won't get in unless you do.
Yep. It's I myself run a couple groups like that, and I don't let. There's one group I let people in if they don't answer it, and that's because it's anybody's. It's an open forum, so anybody's welcome to go on there. But other than that, That questionnaire is a big help when it comes to weeding out the people that probably shouldn't be in those groups.
Exactly. And they're simple questions like, why do you believe in Sasquatch or Bigfoot? Well, some people say, I've seen one. I want to know more, and all that's fine. But then the other questions are, do you promise not to bother any other members with negativity or put them down in any way, and if you agree, yes, I'll let you in. But the first time I see it, you got to go. No hard feelings, but that's not the place for it.
Well, it sounds to me like it's an agreement of being human.
Exactly. I don't know anymore, but
no.
that's the hopes anyway. But those are my encounters. Not that great, but it's what I've had so far. Like I said, I will send you the third photograph. I'll send you all three of them. It don't matter. The first two are open to speculation because they're not real definitive.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the third picture from last February, once you get through the grainy detail, you see exactly what it is. And,
yeah.
And I could also send the place on BFRO of the sighting report from this guy's in front of his house by just a stranger.
That would be awesome. I'm actually on there all the time, so I might have read it already, but
you might have,
maybe not. So that would be awesome to get that information as well.
Good.
So yeah, all of your encounters or stuff that's happened and to your family members, that's extremely intriguing. The one story that sticks out most to my mind is the stream situation. We were fishing, you had that boulder come flying. Now I had a couple questions for you.
Okay.
So you said it was getting dark, right? Right around this time?
Oh gosh, no! It was 10 o'clock at night when this happened.
Oh, it was dark.
It was way past dark. Yeah, it was dark 30. Was what we say in the military. It was dark 30.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, that I'm just trying to paint a picture in my head of the situation. So when you say this boulder came through, was it more of like a roll? Did it might have rolled down the embankment into it, or was it thrown?
There's no way, and I will say that with 100% assurance, that boulder was thrown. There was no way that boulder ran or rolled down that cliff. There is no way, because after the first two things happened, I was listening for sounds. At this point, even though I was, drilling in screws into deck boards, I was listening to what was going on around me because I didn't want something to walk up behind me because my back was actually to the stream, the small river. So I didn't want walked up on just in case it was a bear,
Right.
At this point, I wasn't convinced what was happening, but yet I was listening and I was totally aware of everything around me. So if that thing, and plus it would have took a long time for that thing to roll down and I would have heard it hit everything, but no, it was dead silent to that thing slamming in the bedrock. Because like I said, the stream is only, calf deep at best. On my side of the stream where the rock was closer to, probably just above the ankles, deep.
Gotcha.
So there's no way that it rolled. Absolutely, positively not. It was thrown. And I'll tell you something else I had forgot about. My son-in-law back then, he had a gator, and a John Deere gator, just a regular old farm type gator, and I had bought it from him. And I was using that gator later that summer, and I was going up and down the stream, the small river, creek, whatever, getting the biggest rocks that I could find, and I was damming it up for my boys to play in. Because like I said, it was only ankle deep, sometimes calf deep. And I thought, well, I'll make it a little bit deeper for them to swim in. Everybody likes a dammed up creek to play in. And then plus, during football season, when I come home from football practice in the heat of the afternoon, I like to take a chair down there and just sit in it. It was great. So I was working on damming it up, and I was running out of big rocks. and I couldn't go back over the dam with the gator because it was getting too high. Get high center and get it stuck in the creek. So I noticed that big rock, the one that was thrown, and I made the mental note where it was at. And so it was the only rock in the middle of the creek that was sticking up out of the water, basically. So I was like, well, I could use that big rock in this dam. So I went over there to try to pick it up. I couldn't pick it up. I could get it about kneecap high, and it was just too heavy to lift any further. So I called my son-in-law, and he had just got out of the Marine Corps. And he was up playing with the boys at the camper. And I said, hey, can you come here and help me pick this rock up? And it was all me and him both could do to put it in the back of the gator, in the bed of the gator, so I could take it and dump it where I wanted it. So it was a good sized boulder. Actually about the size of a medicine ball, a little bit bigger than probably 2 basketball size.
So we're talking like upwards of 5 to 6 guys to be able to launch it into the air, like what you're describing.
I don't think 5 or 6 guys you couldn't stand that many people around it, because if you only get so many people hands on a rock. I don't even think. No, there's no way they threw it that anybody could throw it that far.
That's scary, man.
Then you hear all the time people that have sightings, they talk about they have rocks or stones thrown at them and stuff like that. But that was definitely got my attention. And I'll tell you what, I was not done with the deck. But when that boulder hit the water and I saw the ripples coming from it, and I knew that was the boulder that was thrown there because it wasn't there before, I got in my truck and left. I was at that point. I'd had enough. And after seeing the silhouette up there, bobbing back and forth, I was done. I got in the truck, and I will tell you what, I looked all over the place, and I was really nervous because I had to get out and unlock the gate. And back then, those years of the campground had different owners, and they had just took over like a year before that. They bought the campground from somebody else, so none of the street lights were working. Okay. People probably shot them out or slingshotted the bulbs out of them. I don't know, but none of the street lights worked. So when I got to the gate, I actually paused and thought, man, I better look around, because it's awful dark, and I got to get out and unlock this gate, open it, get back in the truck, drive to the other side of it, get back out, pull it back across, lock it, and walk back to the truck. I'm thinking, I don't want that thing around me because this is the way he was going, So yeah, that definitely gave me pause, and I was done for the night. And I don't know if I should. I had a soda that I got to have a little mini fridge that sits on the porch of the camper. And I grabbed the soda out of it and set it in the truck. And that's all I remember doing. But I remember when I opened it, I was mad because it exploded in the inside of my truck. I thought, well, my hands must have been shaking. I must have shook that thing up because I didn't drop it, so I must have been a little rattled. And I remember cleaning soda off my dash, steering wheel, windshield. I must have been a little nervous.
Oh man. Well, so obviously this shook you up a little bit. No pun intended.
Yeah, it did.
It shook you up a little bit. Do you remember? Did you have any effects after your encounter, after your experience, after long lasting? Did you have any sort of PTSD or scared to go back into the woods or anything like that?
No, that kind of actually lit my fire, and I wanted to see more. I'm like, well, I seen this thing up there. I seen something up there. I want to see it. And I thought, I'm going to prove it's real. And I thought, well, I'm going to go get me a body. Just like everybody else that goes into this says.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove it to science. So I've thought about this over the years, and I still believe it's a flesh and blood creature. To me, that's what it is. I don't believe it's interdimensional. I don't think they travel by some portal. But like I said, now this is my opinion. Everybody's got their own opinions, and it's fine. Personally, I don't believe it, because if that was the case, why would we have a film of Patty? Why would we have the Paul Freeman video? Why wouldn't they just poof and be gone, and you wouldn't get them on camera? So I don't know. So I believe they're a flesh and blood animal, and I start out like everybody else. I'm going to prove the science. I'm going to be the one to get one. So I go out and buy all kinds of equipment. I upgraded my Gator to just a monstrous 6-passenger John Deere Gator where I can take lots of people out to the woods, a group, drop them off, whatever. We all have somewhere to ride. It's cool. And stuff like that. And then the more I do this, the more I think, the more I find the footprints and the structures that are built and stuff like that. And doing a lot of research. I mean, a lot of Squatching is actually doing homework on the internet. Mm-hmm. What are other people saying? What are other people reporting? And that's where you come across these interdimensional stuff. And I got to listening to podcasts about like yours. Mm-hmm. And I hear a lot of information put out there and a lot of things that I've never thought about before, and things that happen to people once they have a pretty unique thing happen to them. Like say the truck driver. Did you ever hear the story about the truck driver that hit one?
Yeah. Oh, it was a while ago, right? Quite a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been a few years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And how he got shut up by the government, and you hear stuff like, it's a government conspiracy, and you hear all this stuff. And like I said, I was in Washington State and Mount St. Helens, that area. Mm-hmm. And you've heard the special forces guys or whoever come forward and say, hey, they wouldn't recover these bodies of these things.
Yes.
And they were under top secret orders not to tell anybody, talk about what they've seen, And I know I'm like everybody else. People can say anything that they want to, but I say, well, why would these people lie about something like that? Mm-hmm. And you can tell when somebody's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, stuff like that. And some of these guys sound pretty serious when they tell you, like, the truck driver that hit that one, and how when he got his phone back, it was completely erased, like it was brand new again. Stuff like that. So, but that's not the only instance of that. It's happened before to people.
All the time, actually. A lot. Not all the time, but a lot.
So, when I go in the woods, I take a lot of firepower. I got my AR and I've got some drum magazines. Mm-hmm. But the more I hear about it, I don't think it'll hurt them. They're too fast. Especially when they get on all fours and they're moving around. I think you would have a pretty hard time taking one of these down unless you just got lucky. Okay, but that's only your first problem if you manage to take one down. Because the more I study this, the more I look into it and hear other people's encounters, there's never more than one. And all the evidence that I've got from this guy's farm, he don't just have one. I believe he's got a family unit, because I have found all the different size bear foot tracks everywhere, and they're different from our feet. You can just tell they're different. The way the toes are splayed, they're flat, and they're just fat, they're not like our skinny little toes. And I have got 3 or 4 different sizes from that guy's creek bottoms and stuff in the soft dirt and sand, which, I've got those photographed too. And so there's not going to be just one. So if you was to get lucky and take one out, I don't think you're going to get out of the woods with it. I really don't. I mean, say you're lucky and you do get out of the woods with it. Okay, there's a whole lot of luck going on. But not only do you take one down, you get out of the woods with it. Realistically, what are you going to do with it at that point? What do you do with it? It's not like you can go to law enforcement, because that scenario brings in the men in black. They're just going to take custody of it. Oh. You can't go to any kind of government agency. You can't go to the news, because they'll just censor that.
Yeah. Make it their own.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing you can do is have a refrigerated truck or freezer truck, and you take it to Idaho State University, because we're peons on this earth. If you really think about it, nobody's going to miss us.
Right.
And if they want to keep this thing covered up to the extremes that I believe they've gone with people, that's exactly what's going to happen, because you hear of too many instances like the guys show up and one's a biker guy, one's a clean cut guy. They play good cop back. You've heard that before, right?
Oh yeah, tons of
Not
times.
from one person, but from several people.
All over the country.
Yes. So what do you do if you take it out of the woods? So I have completely rethought that whole thing, and I would probably never shoot one or shoot at one unless it was just come down to me or him. You know, unless it was just that scenario where it was live or die.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I held the opinion for a long time. I know we're getting short on time, so we'll cut it here pretty soon. But
Okay.
I've always carried the opinion of if I see one, I'm gonna shoot one, and I'm gonna. I've always had this plan of action of. Sorry about the gruesome content, people, but chopping it up body part by body part, and bringing one arm to Jeff Meldrum, bringing another arm to Cliff Barrickman. That's and spreading it out, and then keeping a sizable chunk for myself. That way, if some chicanery happens, there's evidence still.
Oh yeah.
So but I don't know today if I was out and about and I saw one. Like you just said, unless my life was at stake, I don't think I could honestly pull the trigger. And it's mainly because of how closely related they are to us. I feel. I don't know if they are or not, but the way their stature is, the way they look, the mannerisms, it's too personalized for me. It would feel too odd for me to shoot one.
And I totally agree. Nothing good is going to come from harvesting one of these. If you could get away with it, and for one, you have to get it out of the woods. That's going to be a hard part in itself. I just don't know how you're going to do it, and then get away with it, and then get to somewhere where, without everybody else knowing what's going on.
Well, that's I don't. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say nothing good is ever going to come from shooting at one.
No. Well, it's, I don't know if you listen to Tony Merkel's The Confessionals podcast at all, but right around the beginning of his podcast, he had someone come on claiming that he shot and killed a Bigfoot. He was turkey hunting in his full hunting garb, and he had a ghillie suit on and the works and everything. And this Bigfoot came within 20 feet of him until he finally realized that this guy was hunting. He was just tucked up against a tree, hidden in some bush. And once the Bigfoot finally realized that this guy was sitting there, the Sasquatch charged him, and he shot this. I guess he literally shot the Bigfoot's head off. Wow. So he claims, and left the body there and ran back, told his buddies about it, and they went to go retrieve the body, and there was a big bloody drag mark to where it looked like the body had been drugged. Right. And so he calls the Fish and Wildlife department to report, and this is all according to him. And I guess the cowboy and the two Men in Black people show up, and they instantly start grilling him. Like, do you realize what you've shot and killed? Blah, blah. And they were going to arrest him for shooting and killing a Sasquatch because they're like, you've killed an endangered species. It's like, well, how is it an endangered species if you guys don't recognize it?
Right, exactly. It's crazy.
So I mean, there's that to contend with also. If let's say you do. Get a sample, type a specimen sample, and you get it to your house, and you make sure you let everyone know that needs to know about it. Who's to say the government's not going to come knocking and arrest you? There's
Well, even if you get a DNA sample, you walk up to him, he picks you up, you snag a handful of hair, he lets you down, you take off running, and you get that hair to a university lab for DNA analysis. That DNA analysis will never hit the light of day.
No.
Yeah. I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but I do, public universities are government funded one way or another.
Yeah.
They're going to shut it down, and that's probably you're never going to get a true DNA analysis come from one of these unless you go to some independent lab with their own funds and probably some other country where our government has no reach, and then maybe you'll get one. Who knows? But I don't even think you can get a DNA sample anymore that's going to do you any good. It's always going to come up with some known strand.
Well, it was because I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live right outside of Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And up in the Olympic Peninsula, there's the Olympic Project. The guys Derek Randalls and Rich Germeau, they run that, and they've had the Nest site. I'm sure you've heard about that. It's been around for a couple, at least last year, for now, at least that I know of. And I knew Jeff Meldrum's been up there and took sampling, eDNA sampling, and a whole Cliff Barrickman, a whole slew of PhDs and investigators have been up there checking it out. And I'm pretty sure they got some sort of DNA sampling off of a molecule, a hair molecule, or follicle. I'm sorry, saying the wrong word. Hair follicle. And it came out like it was. I can't remember exactly. It was an extremely high percentage human, but then it was like a lower percentage finished out percentage unknown, which that's kind of strange. I mean, because for the most part, have its DNA sequence for most known species on this planet. So for something to pop up unknown like that, to me, it seems kind of out of this world.
It does. But I believe you're never going to get a definitive hit on a DNA sample. They're just not going to let it happen.
Well, right. Well, and then, there's, which is, and this is even more reason why it's more extremely important. There's so many different factors, like those unknown identifications could be, the DNA analysis being, bacteria getting into it or something, or it's not sterilized or anything, any number. So I truly believe it's going to take a body. That's what it's going to take. I hope it's not someone having to I hope it doesn't have to come down to someone firing a gun. Hopefully more along the lines of what you're talking about, the government allowing information out once, because it's going to happen once a semi truck hits one or something.
It's going to be a case like that, but then where do we go after that? That's the big question. Where do we go after that? We can't let everybody go out hunting these things, or I don't know. It's just like someone said before. It's just a rabbit hole of what if.
Well, yeah. Wrapping it up real quick. That's the whole thing with it is like with the forest. I know a lot of people disagree with this, but if you really think about it, the forestry alone, how it would affect the logging, in the Pacific Northwest. When the spotted owl was found, the logging took a detrimental hit, and a lot of it still hasn't came back yet. It's not full,
Yeah, I was up there in Washington State when the spotted owl thing happened, and the loggers lost their income, their ability to survive. I mean, I was there in the Pacific Northwest, and I knew how it affected them. I mean, logging just shut down. And,
lots of towns shut down. Whole logging towns shut down. So you tell me you try to tell me it wouldn't affect. That's not one of the main reasons, and I disagree with it. So, or not you, but anyone telling me that. So.
Oh yeah, everything's going to get affected, and it could even, depending on the origins, who knows? It could change everything. It could change everything about religion. It could change everything about humanity or history. It changes everything. And you say you take these people that's been all their life in church and they believe every word of the Bible, which I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what if this thing was to come out and all of a sudden, oh wow, that's not what we were told on Sunday,
Right.
So it could change everything. Then that would really make people question, well, why are we listening to our government anyway? Why are we doing things like this? it could really have a catastrophic effect. And to me, I think that's really why the government keeps it suppressed, because it would create chaos.
Widespread panic. Could you imagine that? You spend your whole life believing one thing, and then something comes out and it totally negates your entire. Oh man.
Yeah. Good. What if that is the missing link, or what if that is the Nephilim, or what if that was the sons of God that come in the daughters of men and bore children to them? What if? And then all of a sudden now we're a race of aliens that were brought here.
Exactly it.
Who knows?
There's so many different. That's exactly it. Well, thank you. I wanted to give you a chance to plug anything. I know you have your Facebook group that you run. I know it's privatized, so people, if you are interested, make sure you do the questionnaire and all that stuff. But I wanted to give you a chance to do all that plug stuff, AJ.
Well, go to Bigfoot 911 Facebook group for one. That's a very well run group with a lot of good evidence. And of course, Sasquatch Believers on the Facebook group is another good place. I try to keep all the BS down and the trolls out, and let people tell their story or whatever they want to do, share their photographs or whatever they want to do. Just don't troll, and act civil and respect everybody, the members of both groups. And it's just, enjoy doing it.
And I know you do. You don't belong to an investigation group per se, right? You're more of an independent.
That's what Bigfoot 911 is.
It is
an investigation group. Yes.
Okay, I'll have to throw a highlight on them in the beginning of this episode.
We happen to do a Bigfoot festival every September in Marion, North Carolina, and we do investigations and have a Facebook group for everybody to talk about it, and a place to put out info and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good squatchers with a lot of good evidence that are also members of that Bigfoot 911. We have Dirty South Squatchers, and they come up with some really great evidence, So
Dirty South Squatchers.
Yeah. So there's so many entities that are a member of the Bigfoot 911 group that do their solo squatching with their own group. But we'll all come together in September at the festival, and everybody will bring their evidence for the year, and see what we got.
That's exciting. That's awesome. That's really cool to hear that something like that takes place. That's awesome. So everybody, make sure you go check out all those places he told you, Facebook groups, people in AJ's area. Make sure you keep an eye out for the festival coming up in September. You said, right?
Correct. Yep, September. I can't remember the exact date, but I know it's like 14th or 15th, something like that. It's that weekend of September, the 14th, 15th, could be 13th, 14th, something like that. But I'm pretty sure it's 14th and 15th.
We'll just take this opportunity to require the listener to go onto the Facebook page and look for that.
Check into it. It's a good time. All kinds of Bigfoot memorabilia, souvenirs, and a lot of investigator booths. It's got evidence there, and plaster casts and photographs and whatever else they bring.
Well, I wanted to thank you for your time, AJ. Again, thanks for coming on. I'll hit stop recording, and we'll chat for about a couple of seconds afterwards, and then I'll let you get going. But thank you again for your time, and people, make sure you go check out all those places he told you to. All right, thanks, AJ.
Yes, sir.
And that's all I have for you. If you liked today's episode, hit that like, share, subscribe, download, bell button, whichever platform it is you're listening on, to spread the word. More traffic my way means more guests, better future content, and an amplified listening experience. I want to thank AJ for coming on to do an interview, and hope to have him back on soon with some more investigation findings and possible future experiences. So before I let you go, remember, green means grow, right means rot. Always stay green. Never stop learning. Love yourself, love others, be kind, be safe, and until next time.
I've been a real bad boy on the town all night. Starting to calm down with the morning light. I'm in the dirt, down in the dirt. Been real bad. I've been a real bad boy on the town all night. Starting to calm down with the morning light.